Yes, hello again everybody and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Skull Podcast. I'm your host John Scott, joined as always by my co-host Matt Essex. Matt, how you doing this week? Lots to get through I think this week. Quite a busy, eventful last 7 days since we last spoke.
Yeah, I can't say my personal life's been as busy as what it has been for the wrestling world, because man, a lot of stuff's happened this week.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's just give everybody a little clue what's coming along on the show. We're going to be talking about WWE. We're going to be talking about Randy Orton's plans for WrestleMania this year and what he's actually going to go down there. Because of course, changing that main event, at least the format of the match is definitely going to be changed. Also, this week, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho finally split. We're going to be talking about how that went off. Again, Charlotte losing the title on Raw to the first time she's ever won it, Bayley. Going to hear myself and Matt's thoughts on that, plus some TNA news, some good news I think this week, which is good, which is positive for TNA. We're going to also give you a bit of an update on our WrestleMania week on the podcast, plus hear about my wrestling TV horror from the other night. I think Matt knows what I'm talking about here as well. Plus UFC news as well, and some news on a new HBO documentary that's going to be going out soon that they're going to do a special on, plus of course all your questions. And don't forget folks, if you want to get in touch with the show, email me at the Wrestling Skull Podcast at gmail.com. That's the Wrestling Skull Podcast at gmail.com. Before we start, Matt, really wanted to get this off the bat because I think it is important, and that is the sad news. Really sad to report. We've lost 3 wrestlers in the past, at least past couple of weeks, especially in the last 7 days. Of course, George the Animal Steel, which I think broke last week, where we heard that, died at the age of 79. Huge wrestling icon, George the Animal Steel, especially in the WWF terms as well. Of course, Chavo Guerrero Sr., I think that was a couple of weeks back. We learned that the sad news of his passing as well. Which again, massive loss to the world of wrestling. Of course, the third one was Koloff, who also I think is in the last 7 days that news broke. He died. He was 74 years old. It was reported that he'd passed away from a battle with liver cancer, and of course he was very much, Ivan Koloff, very much known for defeating the likes of Bruno Sammartino to win the WWF World Heavyweight title back in 1971 at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, after Sammartino had held the belt for almost 8 years. Huge feat, that one for sure. We definitely, I think, We'll probably cover that in our wrestling arts at some point. I'm pretty sure of that, Matt, because it is a big feat. And of course, George the Animal Steel, for people that are not, maybe a lot of our fans might not even be familiar with the guy, or if you are, maybe you only saw him at the back end of his sort of stint with the WWF. But still. He turned professional wrestler in 1967, was best known for his run as the comical babyface attraction in the final years before his 1988 retirement. Of course, with his hairy upper body, Matt, I think we all remember that, don't we? Biting into the turnbuckles. Those images just come into my mind right now. But really sad loss on those 3 particular people. Again, just want to pass on our condolences to the family, and of course, definitely in our memories. 3 big losses there in wrestling. And of course, Chavo Guerrero Sr., again, maybe people not that familiar with what he done. Of course, he was known as Chavo Classic for our more in the WWE terms. He had a stint, Matt, I think if you remember, in WWE as Chavo's manager at one point as well, and he was quite a good heel manager I felt at the time. I don't know if you can remember that little
Yeah,
stint
no,
he had.
yeah. I mean, he's been around in many capacities, in many different promotions, and
Sure.
yeah, it's such a sad loss as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So really had to get that out. Of course, very important. Okay, Matt. Let's move on now, and let's go straight into what happened last week. Starting with let's start with SmackDown, and of course we learned that Randy Orton, the plans for him and Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, Matt, are not to be. Conflicting reports coming out, Matt. I had some news sent to me like on the Monday, and I didn't really think that much of it because, again, wrestling and rumours going on all the damn time. So you can never you can never really guesstimate what on earth is going on, like whether it is legit, whether it's not legit. Wrestling and rumours, like I say, huge goings on with that. So it was very difficult to tell if it was true. But the reports were that Randy Orton did not want a job to Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. He did not like the plans, at least, at WrestleMania. And WWE and Randy Orton both felt like they had to come together to change these plans. So we are now having a battle royal this week on SmackDown. So that's going to be very interesting. And let me first of all give you my thoughts on that particular subject because I've had a lot of time to think about it. I mean, I've got a feeling that that the WWE have basically looked at maybe the reaction this match was getting, the anticipation, and maybe they felt that they maybe needed to change this somewhat. And see how it kind of goes with maybe having what looks essentially now to be a triple threat match. Now I don't know how that's particularly going to work, whether it's going to be any good at all. But the idea of a triple threat looks pretty much like it's going to be on the cards. And if speculation is true, then we're going to get Luke Harper in that triple threat main event. Matt, my question to you on this one, when we learned of this news, did you think this was all part of the storyline, like this had all been thought out, well planned, or do you think this is a last minute where script change all of a sudden and WWE have decided maybe the turn of Randy Orton, it's just not going to be as effective as what people or what WWE imagined it to be, so they better keep it going. Maybe the turn will happen inside the match now. Maybe they're hoping that the anticipation will pay off during the match rather than it happened before. What's your take on that whole change, Matt?
It's been hard for me to say because this whole Randy Orton feud has been a little bit up and down for me. Sure. I never really got it from the real start of it, let alone the end of it, or where they're aiming to end this kind of union between these two guys. Mm-hmm. It's just, I've got to say, when they came out after the Elimination Chamber and they had that stare down and there was no atmosphere there, and I'm not too sure anybody was feeling it. I wouldn't blame them if they decided, we've got to do something to spice this up a little bit. This isn't going as expected. And it did kind of feel like a little sudden because it felt like the announcement, that they would have had more authority and at a bigger kind of level, but this has just come at the end of a SmackDown saying, I'm not going to do this match unless there's going to be some, like you say, some more grand plan, and perhaps they will turn it into a triple threat. But if they were trying to spice it up and make it unexpected, if that happens, it's still kind of like they've swapped it from one thing that we all expected to another thing that we're just expecting, because we know that if the match does happen and Randy Orton does get in that match with Bray, he's going to have to turn on him at some point.
Yeah, I don't know if this was such a good idea, changing it now. I think that I wasn't looking forward to the match, don't get me wrong. This was not a match I thought I really wanted to see. I mean, I'm a huge Bray Wyatt fan, but I think roles needed to reverse. I felt like Bray should be winning the title at WrestleMania to make this guy finally win a match at WrestleMania. And I'm looking at Bray as the problem is, Matt, again, it's like, who do fans want to cheer for here? Because Bray Wyatt is, to a lot of people, I've heard Jim Ross say it enough times, he looks at him as a total baby face sometimes. He looks at this guy as being the next big baby face for the crowd. So I don't even know if WWE are going the right way with even turning Randy Orton right now anyway, in all this, quite frankly. It's very, very difficult because everyone kind of who's a mark for the business kind of respects Bray Wyatt, and they're kind of like, well, he's deserved this. We don't want to see him lose it. So how do you get that into WrestleMania, Matt, where people are going to actually be thinking, well, I don't want him just to have it for a month either. I don't even know if that turn is good enough that fans would accept it. But it's very, very confusing, the whole situation. In my mind, I had it set that maybe Bray wins the Royal Rumble, Randy wins the title and goes in as the champion, and they kind of do it that way. Matt, are we expecting to see Luke Harper as the third in this? And if he is, what does that do for him?
It'll be good exposure for him. I think it'll be a good move if it is him, but a highly predictable one. There's no doubt in my mind that he can insert himself into that match pretty easily and actually add a lot to that match because he's an incredibly talented guy himself. It's just, like I say, too expected. I would be more in favour of something a little more out of the blue. I mean, we're quite worried about what AJ Styles' plans might be for WrestleMania, so please just put him in this match because I would hate to see him left with nothing to do and end up fighting someone like Shane McMahon.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and I think we've both pretty much said that all the way through since quite a long time ago. I think that the issue here, I mean, Luke Harper, I'm all for it, but it only will work if they have a real long-term, a long-term plan for Luke Harper. I'm not saying he has to win, but if he comes out of WrestleMania and then, the next pay-per-view, Matt, we don't even see Luke Harper on it, or Luke Harper's booked in something like way down the card, then, that is absolutely pointless. If he gets in this main event at WrestleMania for the title, I want to see WWE invest good, solid time behind him for a change and not just be there for the numbers. That's what worries me about this. Matt, just on a side note on this, do you think this was in any way planned? Is this like a well thought out plan and this was all going to happen? Or do you think, like me, that WWE have kind of looked at this and thought it's not getting the reaction we needed, like you said earlier on, and we better change things up again? Because it wouldn't be the first time WrestleMania plans have changed on the road. You go back to Daniel Bryan. Since that happened, Matt, we have seen the road to WrestleMania year after year since become very rocky, and plans obviously do change nowadays. Do you think this is another classic case of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to get too complicated for this to be the route they wanted. I mean, I think I even said back at the Royal Rumble, Randy Orton in the Royal Rumble match was a good plan B, It wasn't what I expected, but, that's what they went with. So it's kind of always felt to me like they could have done better in this kind of what should be the main event of WrestleMania this year. It's just kind of confusing because I'm not too sure why we have this. It feels like a match that they could do, but in the main event slot, I mean, come on. I'm sure they could do better.
Yeah, I don't even know if this needed the title. It all does look very confusing. And not only that, would you have booked the Luke Harper Randy Orton match on the last pay-per-view you wouldn't have booked it like that, surely, if you knew this was going to be happening, Matt. That's the way I'm thinking about this, because that was a clear victory on Randy Orton to get him ready for the main event. In my eyes, that was just sort of a stepping stone type of thing.
Yeah, another thing that makes it look like not much thought has been put into this, unless we're totally overlooking something. But if Luke goes on and then goes into this triple threat, then the win